All right. Well, welcome everyone, and by that I mean looks like two people here are allegedly watching with us. We're here for the White Cloaks slash. We got Nerdporial, we got Lady Balefire. It is a coalition of interested parties here for the pre stream. You know, everybody does the after party and the after party, but we're here for the pre party, where you emotionally prepare yourself for what's going to happen.
That's kind of what all of Wheel of Prime was, right? That was emotional preparedness for this next desecration.
Yeah. So we'll see if anybody actually comes out and watches this. But as of right now, I got Dane Bornhold, my fellow White Cloak and co-host. He's about to down a bottle of wine there. I'm assuming bottle, not just glass.
It's a bottle, and I don't need the cap anymore. I threw that away. That's for damn sure.
Is it Arbor Gold? Lady Balefire knows what I'm talking about.
Arbor Gold. Dornish Red.
I was going to say that looks like a Dornish Red to me. Yeah. We got Alexander showing up in the chat. Hey, Alexander, we appreciate you showing up. It's always good to have at least one person. You know, it makes us feel like we're not just yelling and screaming into the void.
I retweeted this thing, so hopefully people show up.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. And we got the Rings of Nerdporial himself, Brian. And thank you so much for coming out. So I'll give you a chance for the one person that we have here who already knows who you are to just tell us what you're up to.
What am I up to? Well, like I said, I did Rings. I saw the Rings of Power yesterday, and this was something I didn't plan to do. I just heard other YouTubers saying, I got free tickets to do it. So since I'm in Chicago, I was like, there must be someplace here that has that.
I will admit I also saw those, and I looked, and where I am in North Carolina, no free tickets for me.
Yeah, and what's funny was all the seats were filled online. Like I got the last one, it was a handicapped. I guess I'm a good person, but the thing was, not all the seats were full. I looked around and there were seats empty. So I was just like, is Amazon having some shenanigans, kind of like Disney did with I think was it Rise of Skywalker? I think.
Oh, definitely. Nerdrotic streamed last night too. I think.
He streamed
a little bit after
Max, but Priestley streamed, and Film Threat they streamed too. Jealous.
Nice.
I was jealous. I got there. I did it first though. I got home first.
Yeah, Brian was first. When I saw the end of Nerdrotics.
I will say I saw that it was on there. I tried to watch it a little bit, but work drugged me away. And then Brian was nice enough to tell me that it was very spoiler rich, and so I decided, cool, I'll watch it after I watch the episode, so I can I can go into it unaffected and ready to be the full sensory assault.
I forgot what happens. That just tells you how impactful. That just tells you how impactful those first two episodes were.
Emily, you drove there and you drove back, so it's purely meh. Like it's not like you're under the influence of something else. Sorry,
yeah,
go ahead, Lady Balefire.
Okay, so you guys have all read the Lord of the Rings books, right?
Yep.
Wait, I haven't read them since long. I haven't read the Lord of the Rings for a long time. I started rereading it, and I've been stuck on Tom Bombadil for like 3 months now. That's just...
Oh, we got show and tell. What do you have here?
I've got my illustrated copy of The Hobbit. That,
very cool.
I think I got that
when I was 10.
And I remember getting the Hobbit in the library, and they had like all the pictures. They had some great artwork. I think this might be the one that I saw. I remember there was the one with the spiders. There was the one with the dragon. There was the one with the troll.
Show that again there, Dane.
Spiders
it
and
up on the big
dragons, I'm
screen.
in.
So give me a sec. I'm gonna get you I think there's a double page photo here of Smaug.
Okay, we got people in the chat here appreciating how
That's
mild
nice.
and
Oh, that's
ooh, that is pretty cool.
That is it.
Smaug.
That's it.
I got The Hobbit from the used bookstore. I like the illustration. That's pretty. And I have my like compendium too.
Very cool. That's good illustrations. Yeah, that's nice.
Oh,
I do not have an illustrated copy of the Hobbit. Just
So this
just a
one, of
normal-
course, it's in the flipped vision screen because that's how it's set up right now. Maybe I'll flip it around a bit later, but this is by Michael Haig. So everyone talks about John Howe and Alan Lee, but Michael Haig did a fantastic job with the Hobbit illustrations as well. So this is one of my prized possessions. So
Green Zeno's asking when does it release. I'm assuming you mean Rings of Power. In which
37
case,
minutes.
37 minutes. You're
man.
here in time for the pre-show. So okay, Nerdporial already has seen it. He says that he already forgot what he saw. So he's going to be zero help for us, clout building, trying to mine him for information. But we do have the lovely Lady Balefire here, who has just made a channel. She's going to start posting all sorts of fantasy literature, TV stuff. So anybody who has seen her on our show or in the comments section of many other channels should go check her out. We'll put a link in the description when we post this. But Lady Balefire, what are you planning on doing in terms of content on your channel as you get up and running?
Well, my big project that I'm going to do is I got so inspired from all of the wonderful rewatch videos that the White Cloaks do that I have decided I'm going to do it also for the House of the Dragon, because I obviously feel very strongly about that show.
You
And,
could do Game of Thrones season 8, which is already complete.
Come on, man.
No one wants to watch that again, Pip.
No.
One, like once is enough. Like,
Dane is talking about our rewatch of Wheel of Prime and saying nobody wants to watch season 8.
That's borderline masochism right there.
Oh God, as bad as fucking Wheel of Prime is, and like I know we're doing it a second time as like an exercise, but I really don't want to watch Game of Thrones season 8 or even 7. 6 kind of sucked too. Like,
yeah.
Oh my God! In hindsight, it's.
Yeah, but I'm going.
I don't even watch season 1 any. Like season 1 through 4 were great.
Yeah, they were awesome because they had all the adaptations to the material. And you know what the thing is, I realized what they don't have in House of the Dragon is they don't have all the wonderful dialogue. And they really did lift a bunch of the dialogue out of the actual novels for the show. So,
I mean, I like season 5 and 6 despite their many flaws, but they paid off. I mean, I think season 6 paid off, especially at the end.
Like there are hints of it. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but like one of the funniest lines that I thought was in the whole series was when Jon Snow's resurrected, and what's his nuts? I'm drawing a blank here, but he's got the big bushy red beard. He's the
Tormund.
Tormund. Yeah, Tormund. He says, "It's like, I know you're not a god, Jon Snow. I saw your pecker. What kind of god would have a pecker that small?" And I'm like, that wasn't in the books, but Garen fucking Teed. If George R. R. Martin actually finished Winds of Winter on time, that is a type of line that would have been in there, and it would have been very well received. So,
oh yeah, I mean,
I thought there were hints of it, kind of past the books that were quite well done. But sorry, Brian, go ahead.
I think Tormund would say that in the books. I mean, he's older and he's very boisterous, like he's even more boisterous in the book than he is in the show. But he's barely in the book. He's like at the very end of book 5 is when we see him, and we see him a little bit in book 3 in the beginning, I believe. So he doesn't go with them to climb the wall, I believe. Lady Balefire, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that.
I honestly don't remember. I'd have to check it up again.
Yeah.
I was doing my 5th read through, and then I was like right before Dance of the Dragons, and I was watching the video, and then someone was like, read Wheel of Time, and then
and then you just can never look back.
And like I've said plenty of times, remember when Wheel of Time, the show, was announced, and people were like, "Oh, just wait, all the books are done, so all the problems of Game of Thrones, that's not a problem here. We've got a completed story. It's not going to fall off a fucking cliff,
which is
they run out of material."
Which is a great lead in.
They didn't even climb the fucking mountain in order to fall off the cliff. They basically started and went straight fucking down at the start.
Which is a great lead in for the show that we're doing a pre-show for, which is not Game of Thrones, not House of the Dragon.
I was asking you guys, I have not read Lord of the Rings, which I'm actually really ashamed to say, so I don't know anything about this. Would somebody explain to me, like I'm 5, what this show is supposed to be about?
It's supposed to be leading into the war with the alliance. It's supposed to lead into the building of the alliance between elves and men that we see in the beginning of Lord of the Rings. Okay. That's how the Second Age ultimately ends. So I think the moment that the Isildur does not cast the ring in, or maybe when he loses the ring, is pretty much where the show cuts off. That's what I'm thinking.
So I got a question here for clarification, but Lady Balefire, if you've not read Lord of the Rings, does that mean you haven't seen the movies either?
No, I've seen the movies a whole bunch of times. But I haven't seen them in recent history, so.
Okay.
Right. So, and Brian, you were saying that the show starts right with Isildur not casting the ring away?
No, not starts. That's how I think it will end.
Okay. Yes, I agree with that. So, from what I have gathered from
I think it's going to end
Tolkien dictionary.
I don't know if I can say this, but the very beginning of the show begins in the First Age.
Right. So
I won't say more.
But it's post Silmarillion because they didn't have the rights to that. So anybody who kind of knows a little bit of
what's the Silmarillion? Give me the chronology here.
Well, Silmarillion is basically covers the first and second ages, and it's basically a collection of stories. I think they're told in poetry, and this was something that Tolkien wrote, started doing like during World War I. So that he had that project, and then he started working on The Hobbit, and they were originally 2 separate things, but then he combined them. He kind of combined them into the same alternate world, as him and Christopher Tolkien put it. So, and then that's where kind of like all the names for Lord of the Rings came from, the merging of those 2 ideas, The Hobbit and Silmarillion.
The Silmarillion makes me think it is most similar to Northern European, specifically like Nordic sagas. If you've read any of like the Icelandic or Norwegian sagas, so there's a lot of little short, compact kind of myths and legends and stories and tales, and they're all sort of threaded together. So they're not all following necessarily the same characters, although you will have several stories that do follow some of the same characters. It's been a while since I read the Silmarillion, so you guys can feel free to correct me if I'm.
That's why, like Gandalf, for instance, has another name, Mithrandir, which is more in tune with the Silmarillion, and like you said, the Nordic mythology that and especially the language that it's based off of. So
which makes sense when you think of what Tolkien was trying to do with writing all of these, sort of the Tolkien's legendarium, right, was really trying to create a mythical history for the British Isles. And so the fact that he pulled from a actual established style of writing European mythological stories makes a lot of sense.
I mean, especially, I'm sure everybody knows Battle of Hastings, the French, the Norman invasion. That's really what started, basically. So everything just got lost. Things got burnt, and documents and mythologies just got lost because of that. That was the nature of war. I mean, people lost, their identities. People lost their mythologies. Who knows how much of our humanity has been lost because of war and because of carnage, and what stories were told that could benefit us today.
There was the burning of the Great Library of Alexandria.
Yeah, I know, right? So here's
that was a little bit earlier, but go ahead, Letty. Sorry.
So how do the ages work? Is it kind of like in Wheel of Time, or is there like a set period?
It's a major event. It's a major event. So the first age ends with the defeat or the destruction of Morgoth, which is the master of Sauron. So Sauron is his best servant. Morgoth is a higher being. He's like one of the highest beings out there. So you know how like the angels, and then you know like so the Istari, the wizards,
is Satan, and then Sauron's kind of like Satan's buddy,
Antichrist,
like
maybe, I don't know,
or something, and like
he's like Damien. Sauron's like Damien from The Omen, if you're familiar with The Omen.
Yeah.
that Damien. But
not Damien. Let's just be clear about that.
But not David.
That's in other words, that's a great movie. It's a great horror movie.
It is very good. That was a good soundtrack.
By the way, we got Zax in the chat who is congratulating you on making your channel there, Lady Balefire.
Thank you, Zax. Thank you.
And thank you for coming out. We have a few people who are wasting their time with us here.
I always call Zax Wild, so I call him because I call him Wild. I always tell him, you make my heart sing, wild thing.
Nice.
What do we got here?
Cringe,
This is another another conversation about who Sauron is, I think, or who Morgoth is.
Right? The Valar are like they're like so you have God, or Iluvatar is the highest, and then I think the Valar are like the next level, and then you have the Maiar. So the Maiar are like the third level. So the Istari are Maiar, Sauron is a Maiar, but like the Valar are
Gandalf is Saruman.
Yeah.
So all the wizards are Maya spirits or Maiar spirits. Yeah.
The Valar I know is Morgoth. I think some elves. I think some elves are high enough to be Valar. I don't know. I have to relook up Valar.
This world is just so insane.
It definitely is, and it'll be so. Brian is the only person who's seen any of it. Do you think we're going to see any of that depth in the show? Is it going to even get close?
Do you think, or does it? Slightly.
Oh no, I'm just curious what you mean.
I mean, like just what we're talking about here, like the different sort of layers of different types of beings, the breadth and depth of the sort of world and its history, or is it all getting flattened? Because obviously they flattened the timeline, right? So they've taken 3,000 years and they've condensed it into, I think they said like about 100 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh God!
And so they have certainly flattened the timeline, and the question is, have they flattened everything else as well?
I mean, it's inconsistent with what's already been told, especially about Galadriel. So I don't. So I would say, yeah. I mean, I tried to judge it based on just like the quality of what I was seeing on the screen, and without thinking about the Legendarium, because I mean that's already been passed. Like, I mean, better channels have covered that than myself. So I just watched it just to see to find out, and it looked like they were trying to be Lord of the Rings. The sound design. Other people will say it was generic fantasy. Maybe they're right. I like the music and I like the sound design. There was some atmosphere to it.
Okay.
But the thing was, I don't even remember half the things that were said. Maybe it's because there's no subtitles. I usually read subtitles on screens, so like I pick up everything that's going on.
To be honest, I'm not surprised by that. I figured that with their budget, there was no way that it was going to be a complete technical perspective flop, right? Like it was going to have some good visuals. It was going to have some good sound scoring. It was going to have some good stuff in it, which maybe goes with some of the reviews that have sort of come out, right, about how it looks good, but doesn't have the weight and depth to it. Is that?
Yeah, I mean,
there was about looks. I have to say something real fast, okay? I like the original movies, obviously, and I just wanted to say that my outfit today and my hair, it's just I'm paying homage to what was that guy's name?
What, Glorfindel?
No, I just totally blanked on his name.
Elrond?
Elrond, yes, there we go. That's embarrassing. Sorry. I'm still coming down off a pain flare, so I have my recall is sort of I have fibromyalgia.
Well, hopefully you're feeling a little bit better. I know
I am, but I was just Elrond had like his hair game was on point in the movies, and they all have that beautiful long hair, and they have the robes, and they just look so ethereal. And then I see it, and I'm like, who is this weird twink looking dude? And someone's like, that's Elrond, and I'm like,
they have really good, like someone a better YouTube channel said they have pretty good salons in this Middle Earth.
Yeah. And it's just so weird because the guy looks so strange anyways, like he's a strange looking face, and I like when I saw him without the elf ears, I'm like, he doesn't look that different.
There was a moment where I felt that they
were a triumph.
There was a moment where I felt that they were ethereal. There was a moment where they sing. I won't say when, but there's a moment where they sing.
Wow.
Do they sing "Speak Your Truth"?
No. I mean, they were like it was like chanting. They were chanting like old school. It felt. I mean, once again, it felt very fantasy with the chanting, especially when it comes to a certain undying lands. I'll say.
Okay. I only have one question, and for you, Brian, and that's: are we going to see the Galadriel jump through the air, slicing of that troll? Is that in the first 2 episodes?
It's in the first. It's in it's the first story in the first episode. It's literally part of the prologue. And I'll say this: she is like Kratos from God of War. If you ever played God of War 4, the one where he goes up to takes on the Nordic gods, yes, she's the only woman there, and there's a bunch of dudes there.
So, did any of you guys see? There's another YouTuber who apparently got some headlines for commenting about how the show makes the orientation of the elves into question. Did any of you guys see that? Apparently, Elrond might be into men.
You couldn't tell by the way he dresses. He's so like, oh my gosh.
So Brian, what do you?
The birdcage. Oh.
So Brian, what do you think? Is do you think that there's a little bit of tension between Elrond and some of his fellows?
Maybe there's tension between him and his buddy. Like he's besties with Galadriel. I'll say that, and he's besties with Durin. So two characters who are actually in the Legendarium. So he's besties with them both. So I don't know what to the level I don't know to the level of the relationship. I can't say, but maybe him and because in the good old days of the Greeks, when the Greeks were running things, you had the mentors, and usually mentorship meant more than just being mentored. Usually there was some physical contact involved. Maybe him and maybe Elrond and Gil-galad, or maybe now Elrond and Celebrimbor. Maybe they have that relationship. Who knows?
So
Tolkien didn't say it didn't happen, so it must be.
Oh God, I know. I was like, well, they didn't explicitly say it never happened, so obviously it's canon. Oh my God,
I forget what that's called. But what is that called? Where I forget what they call that type of style of argument, which is against everything like scientific and.
Oh God, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Deconstructivism. Kevin's got a question for you here. Is it as cheesy as the Wheel of Time cold open for episode 8? I don't know if you've seen the Wheel of Time episode 8. Have you?
No. I saw a little bit of first episode.
Okay.
When I saw the way the Trolloc looked, especially when Tam and spoiler alert, Tam and Rand are fighting the Trolloc, I was like, I'm not watching this. This looks terrible.
It was pretty terrible. Apparently, Elrond is the bottom, and also Balefire. What do you think about this combination? Elrond and Galadriel, the Targaryens.
I don't know. He's probably more like, if we're going canon and we're going to lore, he's probably more like Laenar Valerian.
Elrond is actually her. Elrond's actually her son-in-law. Like her daughter is his wife, and Arwen is Arwen's her granddaughter.
I didn't know that she had a daughter in this time period. I didn't remember that Elrond was married to her daughter. Interesting.
Maybe it's third age.
Like
I don't know.
Canon in the books, or is this just a show doing this?
No, it's in the books.
Yeah.
Oh.
So the question is how much the show will match that. But yeah.
I mean, where's Celeborn? They're married. They are married in the second age. That is in the appendices. I checked.
Mm-hmm.
Where's Celeborn?
I
don't understand the elf.
Apparently,
they can die and come back like Spock in Star Trek. In the Star Trek.
out for some smokes, and she's gonna basically get seduced by Sauron in the meantime. Right, Fitz?
Yeah. So Fitzy come. Hi, Fitz.
All right, here we go. We got somebody else pointing out here. So I think her daughter. Yep.
I think that might be right.
Yeah. All right. So while we're on the topic of people who have seen this show before, I've tried to bring this up. We're gonna do it. It's gonna happen here. This was brought up. Brian, Dane, you guys pointed this out to me. Actually, I hadn't seen this one. This is the Washington Post's review on the Rings of Power. And for those who remember, the Washington Post is owned by a certain company that is owned by a certain owner of Amazon. So Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post, I think outright, right? Like he just straight up bought it.
Yeah, he
whole,
bought it.
Lock, stock, and barrel, about 5 now, right? So it's not even like he's a majority shareholder. I think he just legitimately owns it.
Yeah, they just straight up owned it.
Yeah,
it's like his outlet.
Yeah, and
you just keep hearing news about companies buying other companies, and it's just like, oh no, quality's gonna go down now. That's what happens when you corporatize everything.
I just like this line in here. So, can you spend your way to the next Game of Thrones? Bezos appears to have certainly tried.
That's your boss too.
Like,
I know.
Gosh,
he's so fired. Are
they just doing this so that, like, because if they just were shilling like they were shilling before, it would be so obvious that this is like a propaganda outlet for Amazon. So they're just doing this to try to save face a little bit.
I mean, I don't think anybody else is complaining about the or is worried about being an obvious and open shill.
You gotta get that access. You gotta get your stuff out before everybody else. I mean, it's a dog eat dog world. I understand the game.
I mean, we can see here. I'll share another screen here. So this is just some of the early ratings and reviews. So Rotten Tomato was originally 100% when it came out, and this is only the critics' reviews, right? No, they haven't posted any user reviews. Neither has IMDb. But it's already dropped to 83%. And the way that Rotten Tomatoes works, if you guys remember, is just if you say that it was better than okay, then that counts as a good review.
6 out of 10. I think it's 6 out of 10 is their metric that they use. Yeah. So anything above a 6 out of 10 will get a certified fresh. Anything below that will get a shamrock rotten or whatever.
Well, yeah, so only 83% of critics, and a lot of those were the early access sort of, critics, right? Really all of them, because they're posting reviews. Only 83% of the early access critics even thought that it was a 6 out of 10.
Well, that's just it. Is I think I clicked through it, and I'm only seeing 3 actual reviews building up that 83.
When I looked at it a while ago, I saw some more. I'm not going to dig into it right now, but I thought that
maybe it's because I'm in Canada. But I see an 83.
You got to apologize then. That means you got to apologize every time you say something.
Sorry, I'm in Canada. I only see 3 reviews, and what that tells me is that like 2 of them are saying it's 85, and 1 of them saying it's 80, kind of thing.
Well, no, because it's just a thumb up or thumb down, and mathematically you can't get an 83% out of 3 thumb up or thumb down reviews.
But I think that's the rule for the audience score and the popcorn bucket, and not necessarily for the tomato or the splatty tomato from the critics. I think the critics reviews they try and numerify
either way,
but
either way, I think the important thing to look at is the few audience reviews that we've had, right? And not a whole ton of them, because there's only the few screenings like the one that Brian went to, but you can see it seems like there's very possibly review bombing going on probably both sides. And so, on the White Cloaks,
definitely.
we've done some data analysis on reviews before. And one of the things that we found was that you often get a better metric if you throw out the 5-star and the 1-star reviews, and you just look at what the sort of middle ground is, because essentially a lot of people do go online and put something that they really like or really hate. But so you're losing some of those, you're getting a smaller population, but you're also getting rid of like 100% of the fake reviews, because no one goes on and puts a fake 2,
I was just listening to White Cloaks a few months ago, going through the Kenobi reviews. I think it was Metacritic. So I was at the gym. I was doing my elliptical cardio, and I was listening to that video for a bit. So
you're going through
Alex. Thanks for making my cardio go quicker.
It's a very seductive voice that Alex has.
Is that who did that? Alex?
Yeah.
Alex has done one on some Disney reviews, just like a short one, and then we've done a couple with kind of an ensemble cast on some stuff. But yeah, so it seems like, pretty sort of middle of the road reviews. I think that I don't know. It seems to be that it's not going to be the worst show that's ever been made, right? It's just also not going to be probably a great show. I mean, is that, Brian, would you kind of agree with that?
Oh, yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, I didn't hate it. I didn't hate what I saw. Now, other channels said they hated what they saw. Okay, fair enough. I'm trying not to let what other people say influence how I felt. I just judged the show as it was based on what I saw. And I mean, there was a lot of talking. I liked it. I was thankful that it didn't sound like 21st century vernacular, because I think, doesn't the Wheel of Time have that 21st century vernacular problem?
Oh God, it's so bad.
Okay, so all right,
burn me.
So Rings of Power at least doesn't have that. I mean, there are some cringy lines at points, but I'm thankful for that. And once again, the sound design I enjoyed, the music I enjoyed. I mean, you guys might disagree with me on that. I mean, it's different from the Lord of the Rings stuff. I mean, the Peter Jackson stuff is just everything above everything across the board is better in those films, obviously. But I mean, I wasn't really invested in it with 2 episodes, and this is out of 8, so 25% of the series is done now.
I thought it was a 10-episode series.
I thought it was, but I've been hearing it's going to be 8 this season's going to be 8 episodes.
I've heard 8 as well.
I'm not.
That is the Amazon model. 8 is definitely the Amazon model.
Like, you have 8 episodes, you should have plenty of stuff in between there, because I've seen more stories in older TV shows like Star Trek Deep Space Nine that had 26 episodes a season. There was more story and content in those than in 8
continuity from episode to episode. Like, and even then, like if you go watch those old Star Treks, right?
Yeah.
And this was the age before serialization, where it was super important that you couldn't count on your audience to see last week's episode, and therefore your beginning and your ending point for your episode needs to be roughly the same. But still, shows like Deep Space Nine, Next Generation, Voyager, etc., while they had that element, they still had kind of that undercurrent, that story arc through them. And even now, it's those shows were
by the way,
just in terms of continuity than what we get today, when they're actively trying to be not episodic but one long movie split into 8 parts.
And they keep disregarding what they set up, especially in the new Trek. They keep like, and they try to retcon, like, this new Strange New World show that people like. It just retconned the original series. It doesn't fit with the original series now, and I'm just like, how can I watch this?
So you're the only person that I know who's actually watched that, and it sounds like you don't have a lot of positive things to say about it. So
I'll
have a question about that. I'll have a question about that in a second. I do want to say, so you were right. I just did a quick check on it, because Amazon's model is generally 8 episodes.
Yeah.
So Rings of Power does have 8 episodes. So you're right, 25% of the show in, and you're basically saying, like, yeah, I wasn't hooked. Like, it's just kind of meh.
But don't worry, Peps. guess who's directing the next 4?
Wayne Yip.
Wayne Yip. We're gonna
Wayne.
see some transitions. Whatever
Brian is just
whatever doubts you had
transition,
over the first 2 episodes, don't worry. Wayne Yip's gonna fucking save it. Oxford
Brian
degree.
has no idea what we're talking about. So Wayne
will.
Yip was a director of 2 of the episodes of Wheel of Prime, and we just made fun of him for just how awful those 2 episodes were. Like, he had a bunch of like art school sort of transition shots where you just, you know, do these slow pans and dissolves and things like that. It's just
Dragon's
Look,
Fang.
that's about the level of my video creation. I've only been doing this for like a year.
Don't worry, Wayne Yip got his degree at Oxford Community College.
Tranquil Waters pointing out that $1 billion budget, and they got actors in a studio that don't seem to care about the lore.
But
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Well, I guess we'll find out, right? In 8 minutes, we will all have a chance to feel it,
yeah.
experience it ourselves. I would say honestly, and I don't think anyone's going to disagree with this, that everyone should go out there. If you're going to watch it with an open mind and give it a chance. You know, you should give it a chance when you watch it. But yeah, a lot of us have some concerns going in. I guess we'll see. If Lyle were to show up in the stream, he would say you should support it.
No, so here's a quick comment I have to say as a finance guy, but we shouldn't divorce Rings of Power from the cost that it took to make it.
I was just going to mention that.
Because you see the same thing over and over when you're trying to pick investments or pick stocks, where it's like, you know what? A shitty company, but if it's at the right price, might actually be a very, very good investment. We know kind of the capital outlay that was put into the show to acquire the rights, to produce it and everything else. So that in and of itself sets up the expectations. And if that's not there, then it should be judged accordingly. Right?
Yeah, I agree with that, Dayton. Like, I'm just saying, like, on a production, like, reading the trades and stuff, like I did so much when I was in film school, is that, like, this has been a project that's been in production for years. Like, I remember, like, they had already had it by the time I started actively reading it, and there was just always something that kept them from actually making it. It's like they had a bunch of like staff changes. They like never had a definitive story. People are like, what is this going to be? And it was such a huge outlaying of money to produce this. I was really surprised that like they didn't start production sooner, because you can only be in pre-production for so long, and then you're like, the money you spend on the rights to acquire this, it's like, I don't know if you have to get like what their deal was, if they had to like renew the contract or something like that, but it's like you're wasting money every day you're not producing it. So I was really surprised that they put so much money into it and nothing happened for so long. So yeah, it was weird.
They announced this back in 2017, so this is
that's when
almost 5 years ago.
Yeah,
and I remember seeing the I was still looking at IGN back then. So, and I saw the announcement on IGN. I was like, they have the rights to Lord of the Rings. What are they going to do? They can't. I'm like, the first thing I thought was, there's no way they're going to top Peter Jackson's films. No way.
Yeah,
like, because the first thing I thought,
go back to Peter Jackson.
They could top The Hobbit. Let's not forget here, The Hobbit sucked.
That is true.
That movie was the 3 movies.
But
I like The Hobbit. I mean, I know The Hobbit has their problems, but I liked The Hobbits when I saw them. I was enjoying them.
I didn't mind it. I just think they didn't need to do it with like 3 movies.
They were fun, even though there was a lot of long, drawn out chases. I thought it was still fun, even with the CGI look.
Sorry, Brian, I can't get through 5 minutes of The Hobbit without turning it off. That's just me, but I'm sorry.
I'll agree that, like you said, it does have its share of problems, and yes, it's harder to watch now. It's harder to watch than Lord of the Rings.
But Lord of the Rings is just, he's the best. I like him.
I agree with a lot of people where they say Lord of the Rings is the greatest movie trilogy ever. I agree. I actually agree with that.
It's amazing. Like
it's pretty good. All right, Tranquil Waters is pointing out that he apparently, or she, I don't want to assume gender, did already see the show as well. Seems like enjoyed it, but maybe because of the environment, whatever, instead of the show. Hey, you know, if
it was the friends we made along the way.
again, we got 4 more minutes, and we'll all get to watch this together. It's gonna be a real treat. Can't wait.
Here's the other
3
thing.
bottles back there.
I know I need a refill.
Me too. I'm down to my last little glass. But this is the other question. Have our expectations sunk so low that we might actually enjoy what we're about to witness? Now, Brian, you've already witnessed it, and you're looking low. But how low were your expectations before you saw it? That's the only thing I have to ask.
Well, it's like when I went to see episode 8, because I was really pissed off about the way episode 7 of Star Wars happened. I told myself to enjoy it. Maybe it was me. Maybe I was the problem. And so and so I tried, once again, like I put aside all the criticisms of them disregarding the Legendarium, which is, I agree, is a big effing deal. So I decided to judge it based on what I saw and to see if I could get invested in it. And I couldn't understand half the dialogue that was being said. Maybe it's my ADD and I need the subtitles on the screen to get what's going on. And plus I'm not like super duper familiar with the lore. So maybe there were things that I probably should have picked up on, but I just didn't get into it. And it just looked, I mean, they tried. I felt they tried to make it like Lord of the Rings, and they just doesn't quite pan out.
So wait, you're saying this is a show? This is a show that looks like it was handed over to 2 guys who had a single uncredited writing credit for a shitty Star Trek movie, and they gave them kind of unlimited money and said, "Fuck it, let's see what these guys can do."
Like, how do these people get these jobs?
I mean, doesn't it make you think of 2 other guys that adapted somebody's source material, but then they ran out of source material because that author just got distracted by making money with HBO
shows and like television? Yeah, I know
especially the final 2 seasons.
Why were you guys laughing? I didn't say anything. I'm so canceled.
Why indeed? Why indeed?
The thing is, Dan and Dave were successful though in the beginning because they adapted it well.
Because there was source material.
And but Brian, I think this is a final question. I've asked it before, and we've got a minute before this shit show starts. So with that, I'm going to ask, what have Dan and Dave directed since Game of Thrones?
Well, I mean, their series Confederacy got canceled. That was supposed to be their next HBO show. That got canned. Because people just can't handle the idea of the Confederacy in the 21st century because
I don't think that was it. I think it was more that season 8 sucked a whole bag of dicks.
Well, yeah. I was just laying the projects that they had that didn't pan out.
And a
they
Star Wars trilogy,
Old Republic trilogy that got. And now they're supposed to be doing something else for Netflix.
Better or worse than what we got, though.
And this is the thing. What did they actually do? They have 1 credit. Thrones stopped directing credit. What is it?
I don't even know.
I don't know.
It's a Leslie Jones comedy special on Netflix. Do you know what it takes to direct a comedy special on Netflix?
Nothing. I could
point a camera. All right, guys. It is 9:00 Eastern time, which means it's probably something like 8:00 Central, probably something like 6:00 out there on the West Coast. Allegedly, it's probably also 9:00 somewhere out over the Pacific right now, near the sort of international date line somewhere over there. I don't know. It's times everywhere in the world, but right now it is Rings of Power time.
Soon rip off the Band-Aid.
Soon to go down in history with It's Morbin time. I guess we'll find out.
It's muffin time.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, don't give Amazon the watches. Find alternate means to see this.
Like joining a friend and watching it together.
On a couch.
Exactly.
That's totally legal.
3 a.m. in Sweden. There you go. So, guys, thanks for showing up for the few of you that did.
Alexander.
always a good time to just hang with Brian. Thanks for some of your insights. For those of you guys who haven't already seen it, Brian's got a full review of the first couple episodes that's already posted. So go check him out. The Nerdtorial Lifeform, fantastic channel. Got a lot of good stuff. And we got the rest of us on White Cloaks and Lady Balefire with her brand new channel. She's going to be putting content out.
Thank you.
Hopefully coming out soon. And I think we
have our second House of the Dragon thing too,
which will hopefully drop on White Cloaks tomorrow. And then everything after that's going to be on your channel. It's up to you.
Yes, definitely we'll do that.
All right. And then Zach's is running a post show at his place. I think there's a few other ones out there. So pick your favorite person, Zach's, obviously, because he's here supporting us. And go check them out for the post show to see how well it went. And I don't know, walk in the light, something like that. All right, guys. Bye.
It's going to suck.